Thank you very much. First of all, I must apologise for not being Carrie, my fellow co-founder. Just goes to show you can't believe what you read in print media these days. Anyway, there's a certain irony that I'm here, I have to say, talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs under the banner of inspiring entrepreneurship, because I do think Mumsnet is possibly the worst business idea that was ever created. We launched within nanoseconds of the dot-com crash 11 years ago. Ad rates went from, £25 per 1,000 page impressions to £2.50 overnight. We launched a free-to-use internet site, really advertising to a bunch of women who had very strong ideas about not being advertised to. So it was a pretty disastrous idea, really, but nevertheless, we ploughed on. And we ploughed on, and it has grown over those last 11 years. Now, I'm not sure if that graph is quite acceptable to Silicon Valley. It's possibly not viral enough, but that's maybe because I've never been. I intend to go now, definitely. But we do clock up 35 million views a day. We have, as you've heard, 1.3 million visitors. And our users are very loyal. Over 50% of our users check Mumsnet every day to get their Mumsnet fix. And your typical Mumsnetter there is, they have sort of higher than average income. They tend to be employed. They're quite educated. They're in their prime, although I said that the other day at a meeting, and the lady who I was pitching to me looked at me and said, I'm 46. So I think I'm going to take that slide out because we didn't get anywhere at that meeting. They tend to be parents-to-be or parents. They are mostly mums. We do have a few dads on Mumsnet. We reckon about 5%. They tend to talk not quite so much and extract information more, I think. So why do people use us? Well, really, the bottom line about Mumsnet is it's useful. People, when surveyed, say they come for advice and information and recommendations. Those are the number one reasons. There is, there's a lot of chat. There's a lot of fun. People open virtual bars at night, and real-life friends are made. But it's unlike Facebook in a crucial way, in that I think it's mostly, or the reason people mostly come in the first place is because they need advice, and they tend to trust the advice they get from a peer-to-peer group like Mumsnet. When we asked our users, about 4 out of 5 said that they'd bought a product after a recommendation they'd seen on Mumsnet, a product that they'd never heard of before. And a similar number said that they will routinely go on to Mumsnet when planning to make any major purchase. And it's this peer-to-peer trusted advice, I think, that makes it so powerful. So, as we always say to people, if you try and advertise on Mumsnet, if you get it right, their users will tell the world. But if you get it wrong, they'll tell the world too. So what I thought I'd do is just say a little bit about, over the 11 years, the do's and don'ts we've learned about engaging on social networks. Things you should and shouldn't do with the benefit of hindsight, I have to say. So the first thing, obviously, is you must listen and engage. This is a conversation, it's a dialogue. The age of telling people what's what, I think, is pretty much over. You're having a conversation now. Now, bless Gordon Brown, he came along and he was asked 12 times on Mumsnet during a web chat what his favourite biscuit was. Now, I do have to say this wasn't because there was a kind of intense interest on whether he preferred rich tea fingers to jammy Dodgers. It was merely because Mumsnet has recognised that he wasn't engaging, he wasn't really listening. He was, incredibly caught up in his sort of policy, and he didn't even notice the questions, to be honest. Unlike that, I have to say, the CEO of BT rung me up maybe a couple of months ago on a Sunday morning. I've no idea how he got my number. I was at home. He said, "Hello, it's Ian Livingston, the CEO of BT. I've noticed someone on your board's complaining about one of our engineers, and I'd really like to sort it out." At which point I thought, this is unbelievable, can't you ring back on Monday? But I'm not suggesting that every CEO monitors Mumsnet on a 24/7 basis, but clearly it helps to listen when when people are talking about your brand. I think it is important to relinquish control. This is something that businesses and products find very, very hard to do, but you do have to sort of put things out there and believe in your product. If you believe in your product, put it out there and people will talk about it. This slide just shows something that Ford did with us. They gave a lot of our users some Ford Galaxies to play with and some video cameras, and they videoed themselves in these cars, and they got some really very authentic feedback, and it was generally quite positive, and we knew it was real because these people would go to IKEA and they'd come back and they'd be rowing, and they would also, every single one of them would have bought tea candles. And have you ever been to IKEA and not bought tea candles? One of the big rules, and it's been mentioned already, is you really can't fake your engagement. A while back we had a situation where a company, not unbeknownst to them, I think, it was their agency, sent on a load of brand ambassadors to Mumsnet, and these brand ambassadors would pop up every now and then in the middle of conversations about, sleep and primary schools and sex, and say, have you tried Halib Orange multivitamins? And surprise, surprise, the Mumsnetters cottoned on that there was something afoot. So by way of retaliation, they started a thread, which you can see here, which sort of announced that Halib Orange multivitamins may kill otters. And the first the brand heard about it was when they were Googling themselves on Twitter. On Google. And the first search result was this search result, and they, were quite rightly very upset. But the message is, you really can't fake it. You can't spam. You can't send brand ambassadors. You've got to do the legwork yourself. And then I would finally say, do not pigeonhole or patronise your audience. What I'm afraid I have to say, sorry Iceland, but it really doesn't matter if Kerry Katona shops there. She's not a role model to most people, and it's merely going to patronise us if you suggest that we'll shop there because she does. So the age of kind of meaningless celebrities, I think, to promote things also is over, thank God. And then finally, this is almost my favourite story. This was a story of something that Dr. Pepper did. They wanted to go viral. Everyone wants to go viral, but you mustn't do daft things in the name of going viral. So what they did, they had a competition on Facebook, and they encouraged 14-year-olds and upwards to surrender their Facebook status. And Dr. Pepper would take over their Facebook status and put, some quite racy messages up there. And it became apparent when a Mumsnetter found out that her 14-year-old daughter had a Facebook status which said, 2 girls, 1 cup, and I'm still feeling hungry, or something. Now, if you know what that means, then, you deserve to be going a bit red. But basically, it's a reference to hardcore scat porn, and they put it on a 14-year-old's Facebook page, having encouraged her to give up her privacy. And the idea was that it would be so embarrassing, everyone would send it around, and they would post it up, and they would say they liked it. But actually, it was just a disaster, and that particular agency, surprise, surprise, got the sack. So do think it's not all about going viral. And then, I would also say, if you start a debate, you can't then stop a debate. This is an example where a firm called, came up with this great ad campaign. They were going to promote the Outdoor Advertising Association by putting offensive ads up on buses. And one of those offensive ads was "Career women make bad mothers." Have you ever heard of a career man? I've never heard of a career man. But anyway, Mumsnetters didn't like that either, and they started talking about it, and they started setting up groups and writing to the ad agency's clients and saying, do you want to be associated with this? And complaining to the Advertising Standards Authority. And, surprise, surprise, that was pulled, that campaign, and replaced with sexist ads are bad for business on the sides of buses. And another agency lost business. But it's you know, this making noise. Yes, you can make noise very easily in this social media world. You don't necessarily want the consequences of the noise you make, though. And then finally, I would say my one piece of advice to you, if you engage with your target market in any way, it's quite advisable, I think, not to then end up suing your target market because you don't like what they say. It is true that some of your target market can be quite unreasonable. But nevertheless, you shouldn't go legal. Better to engage and show how reasonable you can be. This graph, we sort of offended as an organisation the leading childcare guru in this country, someone called Gina Ford, when one of our members posted that she straps babies to rockets and launches them into southern Lebanon. She tried to shut us down. That happened in 2006. You can see the spike. Where this is a graph showing Google searches for Mumsnet and Google searches for Gina Ford. And at the spike, Gina Ford tried to shut us down. And since then, I can happily say that Google searches for Mumsnet have risen steadily. I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect Gina Ford's brand was in some way not helped by the fact that she sued us. So that would be my final word of advice. And I'm off to Silicon Valley as soon as I can to learn some more. Thank you very much.